The Hoover Bag Cleaner is fairly well known among the vacuum collecting world. It is a rather unusual device to find, and usually it looks something like this. This is a photo of one owned by Charles Richard Lester, and it would have been tabletop mounted. You can see it's an old Hoover motor there, bag exhaust pointing straight down so that the bag can hang down towards the floor. And this tube contains a belt-driven agitator. It's actually made from the brush roll from like a Hoover 105 or 541 machine. Here's one on a pedestal. So this would have been used by Hoover service centers, vacuum stores, and back when vacuum cleaners nearly all had cloth bags to catch the dirt, this machine would have come in very handy. You can see there's a better shot of the agitator opening. Well, these are, of course, rather hard to find, very hard to find, because they weren't ever sold to the public. I mean, this has to be something that came from a vacuum store that not only had one, but managed to keep it all these years. And here's another one. I think this is a different machine that also belongs to Charles Richard Lester. And you can see this was based off of a Hoover 750 motor, that headlight shroud. And it's got a standard Hoover upright bag on it. In this case, it's got a switch as part of the line cord. And that tube for the brush roll is, I don't know, maybe 20 inches, 18 to 20 inches maybe. Here's an advertisement from a 1940s edition of Popular Mechanics that talks about, shows it in use. You can see the idea there. And this one's on a pedestal also. A Minneapolis electrical shop does the job with a homemade machine. Well, this wasn't a homemade machine. It was, my understanding is it was made by Hoover, and as a store you could call Hoover and order yourself one. But of course there's not going to be, this is the only documentation that I was able to find about this. There would have had to be an internal service bulletin offering these to Hoover dealers, but that's long gone, of course. Here's some photos I found of an interesting version of this bag cleaner, just the tube. And these were posted on Vacuum Land years ago by the username 3rd Gen Vac Guy that used to own Weisheimer's Vacuum in Columbus, Ohio. And I have a couple of machines from Weisheimer's. He did a beautiful restoration job on a Model 800 that I later acquired. And also Spencer that I have came from him, my 1920 machine. You can see this one has an adjustable brush. The height of the brush can be adjusted. That's some nice engraving on that. And here's the whole tube, and you can see if you compare to like the standard bag cleaner tube, this one's much longer. Look how big that thing is. I mean, there's your standard Hoover 105 brush roll width, let's call it 12, 13 inches. So this thing's like close to 3 feet long. And there are 3 bearing blocks to support it. There's your pulley where the belt would go. Well, just the tube, no machine to go with it. So that's been kind of the state of the knowledge on Hoover bag cleaners up till my friend Evan found this from a vacuum store in Pennsylvania that closed. Maybe it was Ohio. Where was Cornman's? All right, that's a piece of research I didn't do. This has one of those long tubes. Look at that. And it also has the adjustment. And this one has a lever. This has the screw that you would have loosened, but it's not marked loosen screw to adjust. It has a handle that will pivot. And so you can see there's a little plate there that says brush adjustment. I threw a coat of paint on this and wire wheeled and put some wax on this part because these always seem to be bare metal, not painted. But there's your brush roll, and as you move this handle, that moves that steel band, and the diagonal section is pivoting the brush roll mounts, raising and lowering this. So this was obviously not just a one-time adjustment like a brush wear adjustment. This is something that you could do on the fly, because otherwise why would they bother to give you this convenient handle arrangement? I don't know if that's for like deeper cleaning versus more gentle. I mean, you wouldn't want to really go to town on a vintage sateen Hoover bag with this. Probably be a little rough for that, but this is based on a Model 800 motor. You can see the very distinctive headlight hood. And the fan housing, I believe, would have been a 900 or 925 fan housing, because it has the liner, the steel liner, which has a rivet to hold it in place, and a couple of rivets at the back side here. One's been replaced with a nut and a bolt. So the fan housing came from a commercial machine. I don't know if they took used traded in machine parts to make this, or if they just took new stuff off the shelf when they cobbled these together. This is the outlet of the fan on this is pointed towards the front, not down. And the original bag, which has been reproduced but same size, is way too long. It would touch the floor. So I think it was designed to be suspended from the ceiling like that. And I'll grab the original one and show you. So that's the original bag. It's got kind of a round top like an old Hoover bag. It's closed at the top. And you can see, I mean, this is like, I'd say 5 feet long. No markings. It's not in wonderful shape, but my friend Ray, who's very, very talented and generous with his time, made a new one. And so I put that on. This machine also is interesting because, unlike the other examples which I showed you in the pictures, it has this spout on the back. And if you look, so look at this picture. See that flat part? So it has a cast-in flat provision that could have been drilled out and tapped for screws so that you could attach this. But let's bring this with. But you can see, and I can only speculate that this was made to attach to like a dust collection system, almost like if you had a dust collector for buffing wheels. I mean, similar to like a wood shop dust collector, but same idea. This is big. I mean, this is like 3-inch. And the other interesting thing that it has is this little side connection, which is the Hoover, they call it the umbrella latch. It's got a plug in it held in with a chain, but if you remove that, then you could attach a Hoover hose, similar to the one I've got here with an upholstery tool on it. So that could plug in there. And, you know, imagining a source of strong suction connected to here, lots of airflow, then that would produce some suction at this that you could then, I don't know, use to clean the junk out of the corners of the bag, or maybe you could clean the outside of the bag while this thing was working its way on the inside of it. But quite the setup here. Very unique, a very unique version of an already rare and unique item. So we'll turn it on, and I have a new old stock replacement Hoover bag because I wasn't going to take this and get it dirty, because then how do you clean the bag on the bag cleaner? You need another bag cleaner, and then you need I don't know. But okay, so this, well, this pedestal is also kind of unique. It's heavy. It's got a standard light switch and an electrical outlet and a power cord wired into that. I replaced the wiring, but I kept, like, this short cord from the motor has an original Hoover plug on it. That's the Hoover Lily plug, they called it. Similar to what you'd get on like an 800 or something. So, and it's no fun changing the belt on one of these through this little cover. But you wouldn't have to do it that often, I wouldn't think. So there's that. big huge bag off the ceiling. And so this is that's going. I've got my Hoover bag here. I'm going to pretend this is full of dirt and a customer has brought their machine in for service, so then we would and that's that. So you can envision this getting quite a bit of use in a service center that was working over dozens and dozens of vacuum cleaners that all had filthy cloth bags, and if the owners wouldn't spring for a new bag, well, then you'd just clean the old one up on this. The only marking that I'll point out on here is, what does that say? Kind of hard to, this is 317, and that looks like an 8, and I can't tell what that is, but 31, could it be 1931 that they made this? Did they have the model 831? I don't know. I think in 31 it was still the 750. But anyway, there's that. Crazy thing. Anyway, thanks to Evan for letting me take this and clean it up and play with it. Thanks to Ray for making that new bag, and thanks to you for watching as always.